Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about how to take your English storytelling from just okay to absolutely fantastic. And we're going to do it by mastering three really essential tools for talking about the past. Let's jump right in. So, have you ever had that feeling you're telling a story in English and you just know it's not landing? It feels like you're just listing off a bunch of facts instead of really painting a picture. Trust me, it's a super common feeling when you're learning a language. Well, today, we are going to fix that. I want you to think of yourself as a builder, but instead of a house, you're building a narrative. And we're going to give you three powerful tools, three specific past tenses, that will add all the structure, atmosphere, and depth you'll ever need. Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation of any good story. This is the structural support, the thing that holds it all together. It's the backbone of your narrative, the past simple. Its job is, well, simple, but it's so important. The past simple is what pushes your story along. It gets you from point A to point B to point C. It's basically the engine of your story. Now, the form itself is usually pretty easy. You just add ed to the verb or you use one of those irregular forms. But its function is what we really care about. You use the past simple to list completed actions, one after the other, to create that core chain of events. For instance, look at this. I woke up. Okay, what happened next? I got dressed. And then I left the house. See how that works? It's a clean, clear sequence. First this, then that, then the next thing. This is your story's main timeline. But a really good story isn't just a list of events, right? It needs some atmosphere, some feeling. So let's grab our next tool and add another layer on top of our foundation. This is the past continuous. So if the past simple is what happened, the past continuous is what was happening in the background while your story was unfolding. It's how you paint a picture and set the mood for whoever's listening. What makes this tense so special is its focus on an action that was in progress. It wasn't just a single event that was over in a second. It was an ongoing situation. It's kind of like the background music or the scenery in a movie. It really sets the tone. Okay, and here's where the real magic happens, when we combine our tools. So you've got this long, ongoing action that's setting the scene. I was driving to work. But then, bam, that background action is interrupted by a short, sharp event in the past simple. When I saw a car accident. The scene is set, and then boom, the plot suddenly moves forward. All right, so we've got our main events and we've got our atmosphere, but what happens when you need to give some extra info that happened before your story even began? For that, we need our third and final tool, the past perfect. I want you to think of this as your story's time machine. The past perfect lets you jump back to an even earlier point in the past to give some really important context or backstory. It's basically your narrative flashback button. The form is always had plus the past participle, and its whole purpose is to make the timeline of events crystal clear. You're basically saying to your listener, hold on a second, the thing I'm about to tell you, it happened even before the main story I was just telling you. So imagine two things happened in the past. First, the train leaves, then a little later I arrive at the station. By using the past perfect and saying, the train had already left when I arrived, the sequence is absolutely unmistakable. There's zero confusion about what happened first. So, now we have our backbone, we have our atmosphere, and we have our backstory. Let's put it all together and see how these three tools combine to build a complete, really dynamic story. Just take a second to read this little story here. You can see the different verbs working together, right? You can almost feel the rhythm. We're setting a scene, then giving a reason from the past, and then pushing forward with a series of events. Let's break it down with our story's blueprint. First, we set the scene with the past continuous. It was raining and I was running late. That's our atmosphere. But why was I running late? Here comes the backstory, the flashback with the past perfect, because I had forgotten my keys. That happened before any of this started. And finally, what are the main events that move things forward? That's our backbone, the past simple. I left, I found them, and my phone rang. See how beautifully they all work together? So remember this, when you combine these three tenses, you're not just listing facts anymore. You're building a complete world for your listener. You're creating a story that has atmosphere, backstory, and a clear path forward. You're making something that's really rich and engaging. You've got the blueprint, and you've got the tools. You know how to create the structure, how to paint the scene, and how to provide the backstory. So
The only question left is, what story are you going to build first?